3, 2, 1.
Good evening. My name is Councillor Khalik Malik, and I am the chair of Overview Scrutiny Committee. I would like to welcome you all to the special meeting of the OSC to address call-in after decision on CEX 512 Council Tax Support Scheme 2021-22. I would like to welcome members of the public who are watching at home. As chair, I will be running the meeting and inviting people to speak. I will ask member or officer to speak in turn at the appropriate stage. If a member does have an urgent reason to interject, for example, to raise a point with the chair, please do so by turning on your microphone or typing in the message box. The except to this will be the committee, scrutiny or ICT officer who may turn on their microphone to alert me to any procedure or scrutiny issue. The advocate for members of the committee, for the officer who are expecting to speak, will be to mute your microphone until you are asked to speak. I will ask members to always say who they are when they make a contribution and speak slowly and clearly. I would like to introduce each of the members here tonight, one by one. I will start by my name is Councillor Khalik Malik, and I am the chair of Overview Scrutiny Committee, and I'm also the ward councillor for Cranford Ward. Can I ask to introduce OSC member alphabetically, and please, when I invite to speak, unmute your microphone and briefly please give introduction. Can I ask Councillor Joanna Bidoff to introduce herself, please?
Good evening, Chair. Thanks very much. I'm Councillor Joanna Bidoff and I represent Turnham Green Ward.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Kamal Chaudhary, please, to introduce herself?
Good evening, I'm Kamal Chaudhary and I'm one of the members on this committee. I also represent Feltham North Ward. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Vikram Gurwal to introduce himself, please?
Good evening, Chair. Good evening to members of the public as well. My name is Councillor Vikram Gurwal. I'm a member of this committee and also represent Hounslow Heath Ward.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Afzal Kiani, please, to introduce himself?
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Afzal Kiani. I'm a member of this committee and represent Hounslow Heath Ward as well.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Ron Mashisa, please, to introduce himself?
Hello, everyone. Councillor Ron Mashisa, representing Turnham Green in Chiswick, member of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee.
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Kuldeep Thak, please, to introduce himself?
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Kuldeep Thak, member of Overview and Scrutiny Committee, also a ward councillor from Feltham North.
Thank you very much. Can I ask all members to mute your microphone?
Chair.
Sorry, did I miss probably your name? My apology. Can I invite Councillor Richard Eason to introduce yourself?
Good evening, I'm Councillor Richard Easton. I represent Osterley and Spring Grove Ward and I'm Vice Chair of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Please, can I ask the lead call-in member and cabinet member to introduce themselves? Can I ask Councillor Theo Dennison to introduce himself, please?
Councillor Dennison's having difficulty connecting. Can we ask one of our IT people to email him another link, please?
Please, can I ask IT team to... Thank you. In the meantime, Can I ask Councillor Shantanu Rajwat to introduce himself, please? Councillor Rajwat, please.
Yeah. Good evening, Chair. I'm Councillor Shantanu Rajwat. I'm the Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Services and a Ward Councillor for Heston West Ward.
Thank you very much. Is Councillor Dennison here yet or not? Is IT team, are they trying to help him or?
Chair, I believe.
Yes, we're just trying to get hold of Councillor Dennis. If you let us do that, and then Sonia will do the camera. I'm doing that in the background.
Thank you very much. I will just go ahead and few other things to speak, and then we will, if we need to wait for Councillor Dennison to arrive and introduce, we will do so. So we also have the officers who will be supporting the meeting, as well as the officer acting in producing role for technical side of the meeting. While we're waiting, Councillor Dennison, I will go a little bit for background, and if anybody can let me know when Councillor Dennison here, and we will ask him to introduce. So the background of this call-in is councillors and members of the public are reminded the agenda of the all reports relating to call-in decision on CEX 512 Council Tax Support Scheme can be found on the council website under the Overview Scrutiny Committee meeting page. The call-in pertain to the Cabinet decision. The Cabinet agreed to consult with residents on the following proposed changes to our council tax support scheme from April 2021, as outlined in section 3 of the report. Changes to the CTS scheme for those working age household who are in receipt of universal credit to an income banded scheme. Standardize the earned income disregard amount. Use a flat rate for all non-dependents deduction. Cabinet are asked to note the intention to review the income band for household on HB and claiming CTS, with any potential changes being introduced from April 2022 as outlined in paragraph 3.18 of the report. Recommendation 2 is to note and envisage any changes going to Cabinet and Council in 2021. On 16 December, a call-in of CEX 512 was received from Councillor Dennison and was signed by the required 8 councillors. The reasons cited for the call-in as per the procedure are as follows, which are inadequate consultation with stakeholder prior to the scene, inadequate evidence on which base a decision, the action is not appropriate to the desired outcome, a potential human right or equality challenge, insufficient consideration of legal and financial advice, contrary to the budget or policy framework. At this stage, can I ask anyone if Councillor Dennison is here?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Thanks, Councillor Dennison. So you are the lead member who have who need to introduce yourself, and then probably we will take from there.
I'm just going to plug my phone in before it runs out of juice. Okay, I'll just turn the sound down on. got 3 different versions of you all on the other public line. Okay, yes, my name is Pierre Denton. I'm the councillor for Sion Ward, and I was responsible for the lead on this call-in. And the reason I called this item in is because I thought the report and the decision made was unsound for a number of reasons outlined in my call-in request.
Thank you, Councillor Dennison. I will invite you later on, just after when next agenda item. So I will go to the agenda item 2, which is apology for absence and declaration of interest. Any declaration of interest? No? Sorry, is Councillor Biddulph, please?
Sorry, Chair, not a declaration of interest, but I found it very difficult to hear Councillor Dennison. So I just wanted to put that marker down. It was very, very soft at my end, and I've got the volume up and everybody else is very clear. So I just wanted to make that point, that perhaps there's something he could do so that he can be heard more clearly.
So probably I will ask IC team to look into it to assist him, please. Thank you.
If Councillor Dennis could just turn his volume up on his phone, that would do.
Thank you. So so there is no declaration of interest. I recognize. Thank you. Any apologies? So no apologies. Can I let all OSC member, that Councillor Adriana George and Councillor Ben Chopra, since they were part of signatories, so that's the reason they are unable to attend this meeting. So agenda item 3, the call-in decision on CEX 512 Council Support Scheme for 2021-22. Request for call-in by Councillor Dennison. I will ask the member leading in this call-in, Councillor Dennison, to set out the reason for the call-in and state the outcome they are seeking if this is known. Councillor Dennison.
Thank you. The reasoning for the call-in are set out in the paperwork for the committee, so I don't wish to hold it there. The proposed outcome that I'm recommending to the committee is that we ask Cabinet for a fundamental rethink of this decision, partly on the ground that the principle which they are seeking to adopt is not fulfilled by the decision they took, and as they have admitted themselves, the timetable they've agreed for their call-in is now void.
Is there your conclusion, or do you go further in detail at all?
How much detail would you like, Chair? Sorry, just a question. I was told that a fresh link was going to be sent to me, so I could join this meeting on my laptop.
Is there, IC team, please, could you assist Councillor Dennison what he suggested?
Will do.
Thank you. Councillor Mashiso, your hand is up.
Chair, for the record, I thought perhaps, with your permission, if whilst we're waiting for Councillor Dennison, for the record, for any watching public, perhaps they would like to know what the current findings have been. I know we've been alerted to the letter from the lead member this afternoon, but I assume that our public members are not fully aware. So perhaps could we invite Councillor Rajwat whilst Councillor Dennison is in limbo to explain his position and as how he's come to the U-turn.
Councillor, thank you. Councillor Biddulph, please. Your hand is up.
Sorry, yes, I was just going to say, Chair, that perhaps we need to explain what is happening in the meeting more clearly, so the people who are from the outside know but in the meantime, this has been withdrawn. So I think we just need a quick summary of the facts, don't we? I'm not necessarily in favour of asking Councillor Rajwat to speak before his turn. I think we need to just make it clear for everybody who's watching this now and who might watch it later, what has happened to the agenda.
Before we go on that, can I ask Councillor Dennison whether he's ready or not?
I'm ready to proceed without a link, since nothing seems to. Oh, sorry, I've just received one from William. Just one sec.
On that, can I ask Councillor Dennison whether he's ready or not?
Okay, this still appears to be. It still appears to be a link to the public version, not the internal version of this event.
So while Councillor Dennison, your IT problem is sorted, can I, because
the IT problem, the appropriate link needs to be sent. This link goes entirely and only to the public version.
Hi, Sir Dennis. I've asked Bill Lee to send you the actual link for the meeting. So just keep an eye on your emails and you'll get the proper link.
Yeah, both Taro and I have sent you the same link, which is the link that everybody's speaking on. Are you using a council laptop with the?
No, I'm not.
That's
no, and that's never been, that has not been a difficulty before, and I've used this consistently since the original lockdown.
Yeah, I think it's the difference is because we're using Teams Live and using a council laptop, you have a license for Teams Live.
Can you come up with a workaround, or am I stuck on the phone?
Unfortunately, at this stage of the day, you'd have to use your phone. There is no workaround unless you can get your work laptop working.
My work laptop is working fine.
Chair, Theo, Chair, with your permission, a possible solution could be, Theo, with your Teams app on your personal laptop, can you log in with your council credentials like you would on Outlook to get into your council inbox on the Teams app? So when you do that on your personal laptop, you'll be logged onto your council Teams account, and then you can join this as a member and not view it as a member of the public.
Could I just suggest a 10-minute intermission while we try and fix this, and if not, I'll proceed without further interruption on the phone.
Bill, can I just ask if you've got Councillor Dennis's mobile number?
I can summon it up from the website and message it to you, Peter.
Okay, thank you. I can call him. Well, he's obviously on the phone now, but.
Pete, do you want me to call in? Do you want to carry on with the camera? Then I can assist Councillor with getting on.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
I believe I believe Councillor Dennis is using his mobile phone, so he may have to come off the meeting for a minute.
Okay, I'll call him on his mobile. Thank you.
Thank you. While the ICT is sorting Councillor Dennison's issue, the Councillor Mashiso, Councillor Bidoff asked for to clarify on the letter was sent out. Councillor Rajwal, are you okay to clarify a little bit on the letter was sent out, if possible? Or you want us to wait?
Chair, the letter was going to be my response to Councillor Dennison, so I can read it out for the benefit of the public and the committee now, or I can wait till Councillor Dennison's back. I'm easy on either. So
I'm a democratic chair. If the OSC member they wish to have clarification and what Councillor Rajwat has said in the letter, please tell me and I will ask Councillor Rajwat now. Otherwise, yeah. So I think Councillor Rajwat, majority of the member, they seek your a little bit clarity on the letter. That would be helpful.
So Chair. So
yes, who's that?
Chair, it's Councillor Eason. I think it would be better if we took a brief adjournment and took the representations in the correct order, rather than taking Councillor Rachel Watt's letter before we've heard more completely from Councillor Dennison.
Is the member happy what Councillor Eason said, or otherwise?
Yeah, happy with taking the adjournment.
Yeah,
Thank you,
that's right.
So, is there everybody else's?
Yes, Chair, I agree with Councillor Eason.
Councillor Grewal?
Yes, Chair. Whatever the committee prefers, that's not a problem.
Thank you. Okay, so Tharu, can I ask a little bit adjournment until the ICT is sorted, and then can we come back? Can you shed light on that if we can, please?
Thank you, Chair. It would be up to you as Chair if you wanted to adjourn the meeting. So if you just give everyone maybe 5 minutes and then return.
Yeah, that will be.
So if members can come back at 7 o'clock.
So the time is now 18:54. Can I ask member to come back on probably five minutes? 7 o'clock. Is that all right?
That is fine. Peter, IT, can we just make sure that the meeting continues running, please?
We'll do, and also if the chair just turns off his camera, then they'll just get a blank screen as well. But we can't actually close the meeting. We have to keep it running.
Yeah, if we turn off your video and the microphone and then come back 7 o'clock and then resume the meeting will stay live and will continue once 7 o'clock. Thank you, everyone.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. Can I ask ICT team whether Councillor Dennison is IT problem is sorted?
The IT problem has been worked on at the moment. We've been in contact with Councillor Dennis. They're just going through step by step at the moment. I'm not sure which step they're at because I've just got a message from Sonia. She's obviously in communication with him.
So I think we will hold for a few more minutes and then probably adjourn for other 5 minutes. And can we ask 5+7 members to resume the meeting, please? Thank you. It's 7:05. Can I ask ICT whether it's IT problem with the Councillor Dennison has been dealt with, or still we are having a problem with it?
Hi, Chair. So I can't call Sonia because she's obviously on the phone with the councillor, but I'm sending her a message. So when she responds, obviously I'll give you an update, but she hasn't responded. Oh,
I'm still on the phone to councillor, and we're still going through the steps. It's not working.
okay.
Can I apology member of the public for inconvenience? I will still postpone adjourn for 5 minutes, and then we'll take it from there, if that's it. Thank you. Hi, can I ask IT team, can you update me where we are, please?
Yeah, this is Peter here. So we're just struggling with a councillor. We're struggling with him actually logging onto Teams. So he doesn't know his format of his user account. So I don't know how much longer you can wait. He's got on the internet. He's just having problems logging on to Teams itself.
Okay. Probably this is. Can I ask OSC member, please? What's your thoughts on that? Yes. To start with, Councillor Mashiso, please.
Yes, I've had the same issues before when I have tried to log in with using non-council devices. So I'm afraid this is going to be an issue, and we probably have to accept that it would only be a phone call. So we'll be able to hear his voice, but not see him in person.
Okay, Councillor Grewal, please.
Sorry, Chair, I have to now completely contradict what Councillor Mashiso just said. I use my personal device, and I have for the past 2-3 years. All Councillor Dennison has to do, and maybe Peter and Sonia can relay this information, is on his personal device, use his council login credentials like he would to go on Outlook and on.
Hi, Councillor Vikram. So we've got up to the stage where Councillor has logged in with his council email address and password. He's logged into Office 365, however, and he's double-clicked on the calendar and gone into the email. I mean, sorry, the meeting. But what it is, he's joining as an attendee still. And
okay,
that's where we're at.
Sorry, Sonia, I didn't mean to talk over
No,
you.
no, that's okay.
I'll try and request him to join this meeting, which might prompt him to the right room. So I'll do that now.
Okay.
I have seen Councillor Gurwal perform miracles in the past. So
let's see today.
Councillor Mashiso, I'm using my personal computer as well because my laptop is going to ICT tomorrow, and I have been using this for a long time. So I think there's not an issue with that. It's just some other issues with this.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny.
Sorry, Chair, with your permission. Obviously, the pressure's on me now to perform a miracle. But if Sonia or Peter could just please say to Theo, accept the request to dial him from me, he should come straight into this meeting.
Thanks, Councillor.
Sorry, Chair. With your permission, Sonia, if you could just ask Theo, Councillor Denson, to accept the request. I think it just keeps coming back to me after every 2-3 seconds.
Yeah, just said that he hasn't received anything. Just give me a second. He's not received. Just give me a second.
I've also sent him an invite as well, so hopefully that'll come up as well. It could be because you're not a producer, Councillor. Hi, Bill. Do you mind sending an email to Councillor Theo with the invite again, if you don't mind?
Okay.
Okay, we've received the email. Just going to test now if Councillor can get him.
Thanks, Sonia.
Because I'm not a producer, there's no producer permissions, but Councillor was able to go through the link.
Sorry, did you say he's joined now?
He's able to, but he doesn't have the, he's not able to switch his camera on, so it doesn't look like a producer's link.
Sonia, Councillor Garai again. Could we just send him the invite again? I think Bill's organiser. If he just resends it to Theo, he'll go into his Teams calendar.
Yeah, that's the one that Councillor's accepted. And
yeah, hello, it's Bill here. I've sent the link about 3 times now.
Hi, Chair. We're just trying to get him to turn on his camera.
Okay.
Apparently he's talking, but we can't hear him. He is in the meeting. Sonia's just sort of trying to help him to make sure that his mic's on.
Thank you.
Hi, Chair. He's still struggling on his end, so I would make a call on him coming through the mobile because he's still struggling on the technology on his end.
Okay.
I'm going to give him a call on his mobile and maybe get him to come back on his mobile.
Okay, thanks.
Chair, I do have another meeting to go to. Councillor Dennison, from the sounds of it, made his comments earlier. I think if he's having troubles, the committee should be able to hear my response to it, and then you can deliberate rather than waiting.
Thanks, Councillor Edward. We'll give few more minutes, and if not, then that should be the case. Thank you. Can I ask IT team, please update me where we are?
Hi, Chair. We're just waiting for the councillor to call by mobile. Unfortunately, if we call him, it could cause him more problems. So we're just kind of waiting for him to call into the meeting with his phone. So yeah, trying not to call him on his mobile because he obviously is trying to join this meeting with his mobile.
Okay.
Chair, in light of that, obviously, as I say, we've heard from Councillor Dennison this evening. He mentioned that he set out his grounds for calling and he was going to leave it there before we asked him to join. I am conscious that the public are watching this meeting. I would respectfully ask that we carry on.
I think, thanks, Councillor Rajwat. Is 2 minutes, 7:30. I will put forward to OSC committee and see what everybody has to say, and we will take it from there if you don't mind.
That's fine, Chair. From my perspective, 2 minutes is not fun.
Okay, I'm here.
There you go. Hello.
Yes.
Councillor Dennison, are you there?
It is me, really buzzing me. I'm getting a little buzzing in my ear at the moment.
Is it me struggling with this voice, or is everybody feel the same?
I'm struggling too.
It's everybody, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Dennison, if you speak up a little bit into the mic, that would be great.
I am speaking into the mic.
Yeah, Councillor Dennison, if you first of all, can I apologize to all members of the public who are connected with the meeting for inconvenience. We had IT problem, which is unusual, and it happens the way in which we are conducting our meeting. And can I thanks to all IT team, the effort they made, and everybody has contributed towards it. For their hard work and this. And can I ask all member thanks and officer for their patience and inconvenience what May has gone through. May I ask Councillor Dennison to introduce yourself, and if you set out what you suggest, and probably include any suggestion resolution for the committee to consider, to set out your reason for the call in and state the outcome you are seeking if this is known to you. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Chair, I wonder, a number of reasons for the call in they were identified in the original paperwork. I'm quite happy to go through each of those in turn and ask specific questions of the lead member if you wish. But there's no point in reiterate the number of reasons because they're already published.
Member of the OSC, are you happy with that?
I'm happy to proceed to discussing the inadequate consultation with stakeholders prior to decision, if you are.
Member of the OSC, what you suggest?
Chair, that's perfectly sensible. If we proceed, that'll be fine.
Okay.
I agree.
I agree too.
Thank you.
Yes.
So please proceed what was suggested.
Thanks. Okay, so the first reason for the calling was that there was inadequate consultation with stakeholders by the lead member and cabinet before they took their decision to consult. This is in a number of parts, but firstly, in terms of pre-consultation, my understanding is that Councillor is a member of the Consultation Institute. Councillor Rajwat, did you consult with them or seek their advice before tabling this proposal?
So, Councillor Dennison, if you set out your what you want to say, and then probably I will ask Councillor Rajwat to respond once you finish, if that is okay.
I was just asking the question.
Councillor Rajwat, do you wish to respond?
Chair, if I read the guidance paper that was issued to members of the OSC and all those attending It's not for the lead member calling in to ask questions of me. It's up to the AIC committee to ask questions when that point comes in the agenda. As I understand it, this is Councillor Denison's opportunity to set out his grounds for appeal. Call in. I beg your pardon.
Okay, well, let's your way then. In terms of pre-consultation, I don't believe a single bit of pre-consultation was actually done. So I invite members of the committee to ask the lead member, given that we are members of the consultation institute, did he consult or seek their advice before tabling his proposal?
Councillor Denison, if you set out your presentation, and then we will seek, please fully, and then we will ask Councillor Rajwat to respond. And then if you have any supplementary, then you can come to the chair and set out your supplementary, anything you wish to ask, and then it will be on for the OSC member to ask the question, and that's the way move forward. Please, can you set out your presentation, and then we will ask response from Councillor Rajwat.
Okay, I have previously circulated to some members of the committee a detailed explanation and brief of my calling and the suggested articles to be asked. The first one relates to the failure of the lead member to take pre-consultation on the proposal. Having worked with the Consultation Institute, I know that they would have advised that best practice before going to any major consultation is they should, a consultor should conduct a preliminary exercise pre-consultation with key stakeholders.
Sorry, are you continuing with that, or are you pause?
Have you paused at that point?
Okay. So shall I assume that that is your presentation, or still this is just to reiterate the way in which please present your comprehensive and fully your presentation, and then Councillor Rajwat has to respond fully what he has to say in response to your. I think member of OSC received your the question and your in detail the documents, and then OSC member will ask question to scrutinize that the see and what they got before them. So please, without pausing, if you whatever you want to set out your presentation, please set out your presentation. Then I can ask Councillor Rajwat to respond fully in response to your presentation, please.
Vice Chair, I actually just did that. I've done it 2 different ways. I've asked a simple question, which was frankly a yes/no question, and I've also explained why, as far as I'm concerned, no pre-consultation was undertaken by Councillor Rajwat. It's up to you to determine, if you actually want to ask any questions with reference to that. But as I say, to the best of my knowledge, no effective pre-consultation was undertaken by Councillor Rajwat before he embarked on this.
So you want response from Councillor Rajwat? Is that what you're suggesting?
If you'd like to counter that proposal, I'd be very interested to hear what he actually has to say about any pre-consultation that he did.
Councillor Rajwat, do you like to respond, or shall we? Shall I ask Councillor Denison to proceed to complete his presentation?
Councillor Denison can proceed, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Denison, can you please proceed and complete your presentation, and then we will ask Councillor Rajwat to respond rather than and let OSC to ask question before the scene before them. Thank you.
Which is efficient. So the persons that I think he should have pre-consulted with, and he's happy to, I'd be delighted to hear if he actually consulted with any of them, would be the Consultation Institute, who would have advised him how best to undertake this consultation. The Zacharias Trust, who are experts on the issue of council tax schemes, and will be able to identify some of the issues that he might need to have covered in terms of his consultation. The local MPs, for example, and in particular, I think he should have consulted with the Labour Group and the Conservative Group in terms of the proposal before drafting them and sending them to committee. I think my assertion is, given that he did not consultation with these, that he didn't feel it was necessary for him to consult with other.
Please proceed, Councillor Dennison. Councillor Dennison, are you there? Sorry, can you finish off your presentation, or is that the case?
Depends what you just heard. I've just been speaking and stopped.
Okay, you stopped, finish it. Thank you, Councillor Dennison. Can you, Councillor Dennison, sorry, Councillor Ridwell, can I invite you to respond, Councillor Ridwell, please?
Thank you, Chair. The committee would have had prior sight to this response, but I'll read that.
My apology. Can you please introduce yourself and then?
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, Chair. Once again, I'm Councillor Shantanu Rajawat, and I'm the Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Services. The report in consideration tonight went to Cabinet in my name and was agreed by Cabinet unanimously. Members of the committee would have had prior sight to the letter which sets out my response to this call-in, but for the benefit of the members of the public, I will read it out in full, and this constitutes my response. So thank you to members of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for the opportunity to work with you in shaping our plans for the Council Tax Localisation Scheme moving forward. I am, and always have been, very happy to work with all members in developing such plans. Indeed, the main reason I was only able to bring the proposal to Cabinet in December was due to the extensive work I undertook within my political group during the autumn to share the details of the plans we seek to take forward. During those discussions, I was clear that the main focus of the proposals I put to Cabinet were about fairness and reducing the bureaucratic burden we are placing on families. Our scheme is complex and difficult for our residents to understand, and our scheme is not equitable because working age households on universal credit receive a higher earnings disregard than those on housing benefit. Until recently, council tax support was assessed and awarded as part of an application for housing benefit. Since the introduction of universal credit, the traditional link between housing benefit and council tax support no longer exists, and it was therefore proposed.
Sorry, can I ask Councillor Dennison, please let Councillor Rodwell finish, and then there will be supplementary you may ask. Thank you.
I've asked a specific I have raised a specific point with reference to pre-consultation, and he's just making a general response, which is of no benefit to anybody.
Councillor Dennison, thank you.
Chair,
yeah, appreciate that. Can Councillor Dennison let him finish, and then if further you have any supplementary you may ask, then OSC member will ask the question whatever they may think that's the right question, and they will scrutinize all those points which you may think that to ask. Councillor Rajwat, to proceed, please.
Thank you very much. So since the introduction of universal credit, the traditional link between housing benefit and council tax support no longer exists, and it was therefore proposed that the scheme is changed so that the discount is applied fairly and consistently for those who qualify for council tax support. A small number of residents will pay more, but our approach limits these rises and continues to protect the most vulnerable with 100% discount. Another reason for considering the change to our scheme was because ultimately all claims will be on universal credit, which is why changes to the scheme now will help our residents when the full migration of the legacy claims on housing benefit to universal credit happens. The Cabinet report was asking for permission to consult on these changes. The consultation outcome would have been analysed and shared with Borough Council before implementing any changes to the scheme. However, we will not be taking the scheme forward in 2021, and I would add here that's not because we've accepted that the decision is wrong. This call-in of the proposals mean that we're not able now to meet the statutory deadlines for any changes to our scheme, and we have not taken forward the consultation. Prior to any new consultation commencing, I'll be required to go back to Cabinet to seek approval for any such scheme, and therefore this renders this call-in process redundant. It serves no purpose, and does not reflect well publicly that we hold this meeting that cannot now influence a redundant cabinet decision. I reiterate that I'm happy to share as much information as we have available on any changes to our scheme, and always have been. We've undertaken extensive analysis as outlined within the report. However, the time to review that is not now, nor in this forum. I will engage with interested ONS members when we have considered our next steps in reviewing our scheme. And just for information, Chair, as part of my response, this should not be a surprise to anyone in Council. I quote a report authored by Councillor Dennison in 2016, which says, and I quote, whilst Hounslow is still carrying out housing benefit calculations, there are minimal additional processing costs, but when universal credit is fully implemented, an alternative, more cost-effective scheme will need to be introduced. Now, my argument will be, at that point, Councillor Dennison looked at the cost. I'm looking at a more fair and equitable scheme, and that's what we've introduced. Chair, that sets out my response. The legal advice has been very clear on this, that the decision cannot be implemented. So as far as I'm concerned with that response, that is all I wish to say on the matter. I will now be withdrawing from the meeting with thanks, and thanks to members of this meeting for taking time to hear my response. But as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing more that needs to be said on it.
Thank you, Councillor Rajwat. If you just bear with me, please. I need to seek a couple of questions from a member, if you don't mind, and then I will.
Chair, my view is very clear in the letter that I've just read out, so I won't be staying for any longer. Thank you very much, Chair. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes, Councillor Mashisa.
This is a public meeting. Can we note that the lead member for finance has not actually you have not granted him permission to leave public meeting, and he has walked off. Can that be noted, and can we please reassert our authority as a Overview and Scrutiny Committee? Because at the moment we are being taken for a joke.
Thank you, Councillor Mashisa. That I assure you that wouldn't be the case, and if Councillor Rajwat wished to withdraw himself and if he has to leave, probably it's his choice. Probably a point is noted, and then we will continue with the rest of the meeting, I believe, and we will when we make our recommendation, we will take into account all your point of order. Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Dennison if he has any supplementary question for the committee to consider?
In the interesting point, isn't it? To be honest, Chair, if it's helpful, I know exactly what Councillor Rajwat will be saying in answer to all the questions I've actually got for him. So I'd be more than happy to answer questions on behalf of Councillor Rajwat for members of the committee if they wish to proceed. As I say, my core point is that no pre-consultation was done on this matter. No attempt to get relevant information was done to inform the decision made by Cabinet. As a consequence of that, they simply assumed that they could push through an ill thought out and outrageous proposal that would have taken over £7 million out of the pockets of some of the poorest households in our borough. It is no thanks to their own judgment that they are unable to do that this year. But Councillor Rajwat has made it abundantly clear that he is determined to proceed with this at whatever speed he can achieve. And we look forward to seeing him do that in the fullness of time. I would like, if you wouldn't mind, Chair, if you would write into record the letter I wrote to Jessica Farmer, copied into all members of the committee, stating the reasons why, despite the fact that we are unable, or the administration is unable to proceed with this matter in this financial year, this call-in was absolutely valid and an important thing for us to do. It is an opportunity for us to raise the key issues that have not been considered by the Cabinet and that ought to have been considered by them before they came up with this proposal.
Thank you.
I would also like to add one further reason as to why proceeding with this is an important matter, and that is my fear that given the treatment of overview scrutiny by the executive in recent weeks, there is a clear and present danger that it is the intention of the administration to make constitutional and other changes which would render the powers and responsibilities of overview scrutiny moot. And I think that is why Councillor Edward has run away, refuses to answer any questions from you today, and hopes that he can return to making this decision without any accountability to anybody in the near future.
Thank you, Councillor Dennison. I believe there is no question from a member of the public. So therefore, unless there is any question, Tharu, can you please if you let me know?
No, Chair, there was no questions received from the public in time for the deadline.
Thank you. Can I now invite the committee to ask question? Please, you may write D in your chat box, or you can raise your hand, whichever is convenient. And if there is any supplementary you have question, you can type S in the chat box, or you can raise your hand, which is the convenient. So this now question for OSC member to ask the question. I believe Councillor Rajwat has left the meeting, but Councillor Dennison is the only there who have presented. If anybody else, cabinet member on his behalf to respond, they may do so, but it's for OSC member to ask the question. So anybody wish to ask any question?
There are.
Yes, Chair.
Chair, Commission, Councillor Richard Eason has put a D in the chat, as well as Councillor Biddulph, so there's two people already waiting to ask questions.
Okay, Councillor, please, if you raise your hand, that will be more probably a
there isn't a hand raising option.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Just like that. Probably.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, it's
Thank
gone.
you.
It's D only.
Thank you. Yeah, I've seen that. So, Councillor Eason, please.
Right. The question I would want to ask the lead member is about the adequacy of consultation that was being proposed. The government has set 12 weeks as the appropriate length of a major consultation. The lead member proposed 6 weeks, and it was 6 weeks straddling the Christmas period. What is it about these proposals that make him think that 6 weeks for a major consultation such as this is an acceptable standard for residents in Hounslow? That's the question I'd like to ask the lead member, and in his absence, perhaps Councillor Dennison would like to answer on his behalf.
Yes, I'm sure Councillor Rajawat would explain that the reason why 6 weeks was actually chosen is because that is the only amount of time left for them to be able to squeeze a decision in on this before the 21-22 budget. As it was, they were proposing a consultation starting on the 17th of December, ending on the 28th of January. 2 days for officers to consider the responses before having to submit a report to Cabinet, a decision at Cabinet, and then a final decision as part of the budget round at the Council meeting in February.
Thank you, Councillor Dennison. Do you have any supplementary question, Councillor Eason? Or?
I've got a supplementary
yes,
answer, which is the reason why they actually kept it to 6 weeks rather than actually maintained a decent period, and that is I don't think there is any evidence of late that they wanted to consult broadly or properly on this matter.
Thank you.
I think that's a predetermination in terms of their position.
Thank you.
Yeah, and yes, I do have a supplementary, and it is around predetermination. So I would like to ask the lead member whether he had any intention whatsoever of taking into account any feedback that was provided in the consultation that was being proposed. And I note that there has been another decision, the Borough Allotment Strategy, that was approved in December, where the only change from the consultation document was they didn't even remove the word draft off the front cover they retained the word draft from the document that was published for consultation in May, and a consultation that yielded 200 responses from the public. So given that track record from this administration of not updating a strategy to reflect anything said in a consultation, I'd ask the lead member whether this consultation was intended to be meaningful in any way, or whether it would be the public's responses would be treated with a similar disdain. And again, if the lead member is not here to answer that, perhaps Councillor Dennison might surmise to a response.
Councillor Richard Eason, thank you. Can I remind all members to focus on the decision before us, which we need to scrutinize, rather than wider question? I will appreciate to remain on the decision.
So Chair, I think that is, I think my point is relevant. It is the benchmark that has been set on a consultation by this administration, and I would, I would want to ask the lead member whether he is going to, whether he intended to stick by that very low benchmark, or do a proper, or be influenced by a public consultation. So I really do think that it is pertinent.
Thank you. Councillor Dennison, would you mind to answer?
Yes, I think predetermination is very clearly established by the behaviour of the lead member. And I think it's proved on 4 additional grounds. Firstly, the fact that no actual appropriate time was actually allowed for this consultation, or the reasonable consideration of its responses. That there was no change option offered to any consultee, or would have been no change option offered. It was simply a matter of one evil or another evil. Thirdly, that there was no cost neutral or financially neutral option being offered. Councillor Rajwat made strong claims that this was a matter of fairness and transparency, but unfortunately his claims of fairness and transparency were purely there to obscure the fact that this is a monumentally huge financial grab out of the pockets of the poorest households in our borough. 7.5 to 7.8 million pounds would have been taken off these people in the next financial year if this proposal had been voted through. And very lastly, I think the fact he actually walked out, we actually asked the merest of questions, or the suggestion that questions might be raised about his behaviour and this proposal, suggests that the administration is giving us a take it or leave it option as far as this is concerned. And that is, I think, further evidence of predetermination.
Thank you, Councillor Dennison. Can I ask Councillor Bidoff, and then Councillor Grewal, and then Councillor Kiani, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'd also like to pick up on the predetermination point. And we don't have the lead member here. And I find myself, just as an aside, being reminded of the programme Have I Got News for You, when a speaker walked out and we ended up talking to a tub of lard. And I do feel that we have been treated very similarly this evening to that. And another phrase that I might like to use to pick up on Councillor Dennison's last point is a phrase that was used by Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. I was never a Thatcherite, but the phrase she used was "he's frit," and I think that that applies in this case too. And I think we must do more than note what has happened this evening. We must record it with accuracy, including the very gruff and rude way in which we've been treated, and send a very strong letter, it seems to me, to the whole of the Cabinet to say that this isn't good enough. This is scrutiny. It's not a children's playground. So on those, moving on from there, I'd like to pick up, as I said, on the predetermined point, is my understanding of the process, Councillor Dennison, and perhaps you could clarify this, is that you and we were put under some pressure to drop this call-in. There were arguments put that were to persuade us that it wasn't worthy of being called in. If we had done that, this proposal would be going through. And you've made very eloquently some very strong points about just how damaging this would be to those in our borough who need the most help. So I'd like, based on that, I would like to ask you whether you've ever experienced this sort of thing before, a lead member walking out, but not only just walking out, asking you and asking us to drop the call in, as if this wasn't an important subject. I've looked through it, I'm in communications just as you are, and I don't think I've seen a worse consultation on any level. The examples that are given don't match anything that I've come across in my ward, and we will all, of course, pull up images of the people we've helped who are in difficulty, and the profiles just aren't there. A single mum with 3 children with special educational needs, she's not here. None of it. I've got a family with 3 children, a couple with 3 children. That's not there either. The impacts on individuals have not been clearly described. I think it's very badly written. It's very unclear. If I were asked to make comment on this, I wouldn't know where to start. And so my question is, were you concerned about those sorts of issues as well? Or were you concerned about the policy? Or was it both? It seems to me, I would very much like your opinion on that.
Councillor Biddulph, thanks for your question. Can I remind we need to focus on the decision before us. I will take up as a chair with the cabinet. I understand the feeling and the OSC member has put forward, and everything is visible. I assure you that this will be taken very seriously. As a chair, I will take up with the cabinet what you have suggested.
It must be so, Chairman, because it's happened before. And if scrutiny isn't taken seriously, there's no role for it. And what does that say about the borough and the borough's reputation in terms of being a very, well, I won't use the B word because it would be perhaps pejorative, but we do not respect our residents when the borough behaves like this, or the cabinet behaves like this.
Thank you. Councillor Dennison, would you wish to respond briefly?
I'd be happy to, Chair. I agree with Councillor Biddulph on absolutely everything she has said tonight. I think the way that this has been approached would have laid the council open to judicial review if we had not saved them by calling this decision in. I think there are issues both with reference to the state of the consultation that was being proposed, which would have been, as I say, would have been an unsafe consultation because of the amount of time allocated for it, the failure to give adequate information as part of it, or an understanding of the difficulties that some of these hard-to-reach poor members of the community actually face in terms of addressing concerns. And doing it at a time of Christmas, it almost makes Hounslow Council the Scrooge Borough for even thinking of taking such a proposal at that time. As far as the policy is concerned, yes, I think Councillor Redwhite is right to repeat what I said in 2016. I can assure him and yourselves that this is not the sort of proposal that I would have brought forward. And the reason why is because first and foremost, we have to be thinking not about how much money can we wring back off the poorest members of our community, but what do we need to do in order to relieve poverty within Hounslow. So in terms of policy, absolutely no information is provided in the report with reference to how many people currently on council tax support have their benefits subject to restraint through court action, or restraint on their benefits, or restraint on their income. No details in terms of the amount of court actions taken against these people, or the numbers that have been subject to bailiff action as well. Without tracking how difficult it is for the council to actually raise money of the poorest members of our community, you cannot appreciate how ludicrous the idea is that you can vastly increase the take off these people and think that they will miraculously start growing magic money trees in their gardens and being able to pay stuff that they simply cannot pay because they do not have the income to support it. So I think the inadequacy of information is actually quite condemning of this action. You may, certainly Labour members will recall, on the 23rd of November, a briefing was given by Councillor Rajwat and Harminder Prasad with reference to this scheme. And I asked specifically two things. One, whether or not he would be so good as to take this to Labour Group so we could actually discuss it in the round rather than in pinch packets. And secondly, whether he could provide information relating to the impact of the current scheme as far as residents of our borough are concerned, with details of the number of persons by ward that are currently affected. As it is, there's a officer delegated report that was reported in the last couple of weeks, which was actually taken in November, relating to the number of persons on council tax support that were in receipt of hardship fund assistance. 58% of the recipients of council tax support were in receipt of hardship funding. What on earth makes anybody believe that if 58% are in receipt of hardship funding now, if you take £7.5 million out of their pockets, what makes them think that this council would ever actually be able to raise any money from this means? As a financial proposal, it makes no sense whatsoever. The damage it would cause to households, to families, to communities is just ludicrously high, and it would far outweigh any financial benefits from the cuts in welfare that were being proposed.
Thank you, Councillor Denison. Councillor Grewal, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Chair. So I've been a member of OSC since Overview Scrutiny Committee since 2018, and I must say I never thought I'd see a moment like this today. You know, the public values scrutiny immensely. How do I know that? Because every time there's been a call in, I've got emails from the public off the back of it talking about my contribution, the panel's contribution, and some of the constructive words that came out of scrutiny in that meeting. So, you know, effectively, we are all elected officials and accountable to the public. The cabinet and the lead member walking out of this meeting really is something I've never seen before on a local or national scale. You know, the leader of the council last week for that call in, he said that, you know, scrutiny is a constructive friend of the administration and cabinet. We can only be that constructive friend if they stay in our meetings and have a discussion. You know, I fully appreciate that this council tax proposal has now been scrapped for 21 for this year, but there will be a new scheme next year. So, you know, particularly on the pre-advice process and what was taking place, if we had a constructive conversation about that this evening, I feel that for the next proposed scheme by the lead member, a lot of lessons would have been learned and we would have corrected a lot of wrongs so we don't call that in down the line. And that's been a real missed opportunity today. You know, I'll give you an example. Under Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, 100,000 people died, yet you see him, you know, listening to the public, listening to journalists, taking their questions in front of all of us on the daily briefings. You know, there's so many people that have had to face tough decisions in public office and made tough decisions, but they've always backed it up in one way or the other, and I've never seen them walk off like this before. So I'm disappointed, Chair. I must put that on record. You know, in the past we've seen in the private eye London Borough of Hounslow come as a rotten borough, and I never really wanted that to happen, especially whilst being a member of you know, this Labour group as well. But I must say I'm very dissatisfied with what happened tonight. I just have a couple of questions about the pre-consultation period, because as I said, the real lessons are to be learnt there for future schemes. So I will ask them. There's not a lead member to answer them, but maybe I could ask Councillor Denison, as experience of having this role previously as a lead member, and to be honest with you, he's been answering all the questions already tonight from my previous panel members. So one thing about the Citizen Advice Bureau, the first question, so we fund it to give welfare advice to residents, and they have a wealth of experience of the situation facing welfare recipients across our borough. Councillor Denison, do you know if they were consulted, as one of our partners before tabling this proposal that has obviously now been scrapped? That's my first question. Second question, did you consult, or did the lead member consult with the local MPs before tabling this proposal? I only asked that because you know, Seema Malhotra, the MP for Feltham and Heston, and Ruth Cadbury, both our MPs, you know, for Ruth obviously for Brentford and Knisworth, have been highly critical of the government's proposal to end the £20 a week uplift, temporary uplift by Rishi Sunak in universal credit, and it coming to an end in April. It seems to me that this proposal would see a similar loss of income for thousands of households in both these MPs' constituency, obviously London Borough of Hounslow. You know, does the lead member and the government, if they were both to implement the temporary withdrawal of universal credit uplift of £20 a week, and also introducing a scheme like this, you know, it would be a double impact on many families. Was that considered? And a follow-up question to that, do we think that the families affected, or the local MPs, will be able to tell the difference between a £20 a week reduction in universal credit and this increased cost from the London Borough of Hounslow? It'd be very hard for them to differentiate that. You know, I've just got two more questions, Chair. You know, Seema Malhotra has described the zero-hour contracts and low incomes faced by many. You know, we all know about in-work poverty being at all-time high. You know, she went further and said that the impact of the pandemic, and particularly the furloughing of tens of thousands of residents, you know, we know in London Borough of Hounslow there's over 60,000 that have been furloughed. And now they face a real possibility of losing their jobs, and the prospect of a 5% increase in council tax as a triple hammer blow. Those were Seema's words. Will this proposal that obviously has been withdrawn for the future on, will that take that into account, or will this be the fourth hammer blow for our residents? You know, and one other question I have is, and apologies for the pronunciation, maybe Councillor Dennis or someone else can correct me on this, but the Zakatew's Z2K Trust was set up to campaign against and help those affected by the infamous poll tax of the past. They're absolutely fantastic. They do great work on campaigning against cuts in council tax support. In 2014, they congratulated our borough, the London Borough of Hounslow, when we restored the model scheme. Given that they are experts on this issue, were they consulted before this proposal was thought up and the consultation process began? I and other members of Scrutiny got an email from them today about their dissent of this scheme. So I assume the answer to that is no, but I'll pause there now, Chair. I may come in later for other questions. And I thank Councillor Denison in advance for answering these questions, because unfortunately there's no one else to.
Thank you, Councillor Gurwal. One thing I assure you, the Cabinet has a role to play, which they are doing. You can see how and which way they proceed. The OSC has integral part of the Cabinet, our decision making will remain, and a good work what they are performing over the years, I have observed, they will continue to do so. So we will continue to recommend for all those decisions before us, and we will continue to do so. And I'm pretty certain that all member of the resident and everybody is observing the scrutiny is playing the role and the recommendation they make, and they will keep doing the good work. Thanks for all OSC member. Really appreciate for your patience and for your hard work. What they are continuing with. So can I ask Councillor Denison to respond briefly, Councillor Gurwal's question, and then I'll go for Councillor Kiani.
Thank you, Chair. My first job in Hounslow when I moved to Hounslow was as the coordinator of the Centre for the Employed on the Staines Road, which is part funded by the GLC and by Hounslow Council. And I worked with the CAB, who were right around the corner in the car park, bizarrely, and have continued that work, giving advice to welfare recipients within the borough. I do know how very heavy their caseload is, and they have a very intimate knowledge of the difficulties that these families actually face. In addition to giving that advice, they are also our partners and local experts. You know, it is, you know, open to us at any time to simply ask them what the impact of these sort of changes would actually have, and they'd be more than happy to actually answer those questions. As far as the MPs are concerned, I am slightly concerned. I mean, there are two aspects here. I mean, they are local stakeholders, not just politicians. You know, they have an awareness of what is going on in the world. And I think my concern, as far as they're concerned, is you're absolutely right, Vikram. They are doing sterling work, pressing the case for the uplift in universal credit to be maintained, given the circumstances that people are facing. And exactly the same scale of impact, if that was taken away, is mirrored in these proposals from the administration. And I cannot understand why the administration is not aware of what else is going on in the world, because they seem to be completely oblivious to the fact that what they would be doing is the exact opposite of what they ought to be doing. If they had consulted the MPs, I am convinced that they would have been right about how embarrassing that this proposal is. You know, I think it brings the Labour Party into disrepute that it has even been tabled. The simple fact is, if you look at the caseload for council tax support since it was introduced in 2013, it has been steadily reducing year on year. The only year when the caseload has increased and the cost of it to the council has increased has been this last year because of COVID. Now, obviously, if the issue is caused by COVID, we shouldn't be trying to reduce the assistance that's been given. We ought to be increasing that assistance to make sure that our local families can get through it. So in terms of can people tell the difference between 20 quid being taken off by the Conservative Party or 20 quid being taken off per week by the Labour Party? No, I don't think they can. And I think this engenders distrust and frustration with the political system, that in essence, there are certain people who think they can get away with a proposal of this scale. I thought Seema's comments in terms of the triple hammer blow were absolutely on point. And I am utterly bereft of any explanation as to why this administration would consider this an acceptable proposal to anybody. I have to say, I do know that the council did not consult with the Z2K. I call them the Z2K trust because it's so much easier than Zacchaeus. Oh dear. These guys are wonderful people. They established themselves back in the good old days of Margaret Thatcher and the poll tax. They have been working ever since to protect the rights and livelihoods of the poorest of our community.
Thank you, Councillor Denson. Is there any more to add? Thank you.
No, I think that's enough. As I say, I don't think pre-consultation occurred. The only piece of pre-consultation which one could claim occurred was that, as some Labour members will know, a number of workshops or briefing sessions were held in November that Councillor Redwat and Harminder Pathos from the Officer Council team gave to give us a briefing on what these proposals were. My understanding, though, is that these briefings were not offered to the Conservative members of our council. And I could be entirely wrong. I think maybe the laws have changed, but I think not. But if a briefing is being given by council officers on a particular proposal to one political group, it beholds the officers to ensure that they are above reproach and also offer a similar advice or briefing session to opposition member as well. And as far as I'm aware, that was not done either. So I don't think that counts as consultation. I think that counts as an attempt to get Labour members on side for a fracas that was about to occur.
Thank you, Councillor Denson. We are conscious about the time. I think Councillor Kiani, and then probably we will round up our discussion. Yeah, we'll take the couple of questions more, and then we'll probably round up. That's Councillor Kiani, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really disappointed by the behavior of our lead member who has left the meeting, knowing that this meeting is broadcasted in public and public are watching this. I just want to know either you can answer or any officer can answer this. I have the, it's very difficult for me to understand what is the remit of our OIC, Overview and Scrutiny Committee, sorry, Overview and Scrutiny Committee. The lead member has left without intimation, and we are discussing here the decision made by him, which he is not there to answer any questions. So is there any way of summoning this lead member to come back and answer those questions, or the legality of this overview and scrutiny committee. If this is the case, in future decision, call-in decision, every lead member or every person who has made the decision walk away from the meeting. And if we were not able to deal with that, I don't think so the overview and scrutiny committee is doing their job properly.
So can I thank, yeah, if you just bear with me. Thanks, Councillor Kiani. Your very valid question. At this point, I will seek Stephen's, probably he is the person to advise on that, so I'll take his view, and then probably we will take legal advice, what can be done and how we will do it as the OSC member to proceed. What's your concern taking on board? Not only yours, but majority of the OSC member. Thanks. Stephen, please.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, it's just an appropriate time to remind the committee that the function of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee is to scrutinise decisions that have been made or which are capable of being implemented. It's been made clear that the consultation on the scheme won't happen and the scheme won't proceed. So, as I mentioned at the start, there is no decision here to scrutinise, and you know, you need to ask yourselves whether what you're discussing is relevant to the decision that's being called in, which was a decision to consult the public on a scheme, which has now been withdrawn. So Councillor Kiani's question is very relevant as to what the purpose of the meeting now is. We can't summon Councillor Rajawat back, there's no power to do so, and he was entitled to leave. So that's the legal view.
Thanks, Stephen. I will probably take up with Jessica and yourself, and we will discuss it through, and we will take appropriate way of moving forward. Probably that would be helpful. Can I invite Councillor Mashisa, sorry, Councillor Tuck before, and then Councillor Mashisa.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the fact that Councillor Rajawat, the lead member, left without any discussion, without answering any question, should we not assume that what Councillor Dennison is saying, all the grounds are met? Because Councillor Rajawat do not want to defend any of them.
Thank you, Councillor Tuck. Councillor Mashisa, please.
Thank you, Chair, and I wouldn't want to counter our legal advisor's comments, but whilst he was talking, I had a quick look at the role of scrutiny, and the role for us, Overview and Scrutiny, is to hold an authority's decision makers to account, not necessarily just a decision, but decision makers, and that's fundamental to the success of our democracy. So even if a decision is not in front of us, we have a role to play in the governance of our borough. So I disagree that it's just we're here just to scrutinise decisions. No, we're here because it's democratically expected for us to be here. On to my wider points, I would say that you know, Councillor Rajawat and the leader of the council has said that Overview and Scrutiny is a constructive friend to the cabinet, but what kind of a friend runs away when things get difficult? I don't think that's any friend I want to have as my on the side of me. So I would look at a couple of things. Councillor Rajawat did mention that he had consulted and had spoken to various members of Scrutiny and members of the Labour group in just prior to making this decision. I would love to see some evidence as to what meetings he's had, what conversations had with anyone from Overview and Scrutiny, what conversations had with anyone from the Conservative group as good practice before he'd made his decision. And I'm glad that Councillor Dennison has pointed this fact out, which is that had this not been called in, this could have faced a judicial review. But in the end, we are seeing Councillor Rajawat, the lead member, relinquishing his responsibilities. He is not standing up for the people of the London Borough of Hounslow. He's abdicating his responsibilities, and I'm glad that there is some leadership in the group of the administration, and that leadership is being shown by Councillor Dennison, who is standing here, taking our questions, taking his own time to take our questions and respond. So thank you very much. And those are my only points I want to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to remind member that we are here to question around the decision what before us. Can we focus on that point rather than general question? I understand everybody have observed, and I mentioned before that I will take the legal advice and I will see what can be done to ensure that in future these things doesn't occur. So we will, as a scrutiny chair, what role I will discuss with the legal advice. We will take it from there. Can I?
Can I just respond to Councillor Masisho's point? With all due respect, Councillor Masisho, if you look at the briefing, your options as a committee are to confirm the decision. There's no decision to confirm. To refer the decision back to Cabinet, there's no decision to refer back, or to refer the decision to Council, there's no decision to refer to Council. That's my point, that those are your options arising from this meeting. So this is an important, interesting discussion, and I understand that, but it is not the real function of overview and scrutiny.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, Councillor Dennison.
As you know, Chair, we had protracted informal meetings with a whole bunch of officers, including Jessica Farmer, the monitoring officer, and Councillor Rajawat, prior to this meeting, to try and agree the terms of this call-in. And I invited Councillor Rajawat to withdraw the decision so that we wouldn't need to proceed. He was adamant that he was not going to withdraw this decision and that he was going to proceed with it later on this year. There was a suggestion that therefore the decision, because it could not be implemented, did not exist. But actually, the decision still exists. The fact that the timetable was vitiated by the fact that they didn't allow sufficient time for it is neither here nor there. So the decision actually still stands. It simply cannot be implemented. That's not the same thing as it does not exist. And in terms of the role of scrutiny, it is absolutely important that we should raise to the urgent attention of the Cabinet as critical friends that there were fundamental problems in terms of their proposal that they need to address before they proceed further in this direction. And if you wouldn't mind, Chair, I'd just like to clarify the remedies that I think that would be relevant as far as this particular case is concerned.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dennison. Can I?
Would you like me to do so?
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah, the first one is that members of Cabinet should undertake training on consultation before they return to providing. Before they return to this issue and can come up with a further proposal. But secondly, a fundamental rethink should be undertaken by Cabinet of the proposal before they come forward with an alternative plan. And thirdly, that they provide the information on the CTS scheme as it has currently been operating that was requested of them and that the lead member undertook to provide on the 23rd of November. And that relates to the numbers of persons affected by CTS in each of our wards, the numbers of CTS claimants that were having their benefits attached or their earnings attached or were subject to court action or to bailiff action, and to look at how that has tracked over the number of years since 2013 when this scheme was introduced.
Thank you, Councillor Dennison. Councillor Bedoff, and probably we will conclude the CN and we will retire for deliberation. Councillor Bedoff, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just note that Clive Portman's been trying to speak for a while, so perhaps he should. I don't want to take his space, is what I'm trying to say. But I want to pick up on one point that has been said, and it's been repeated, and I'm worrying about it, Councillor Rajawat invited scrutiny to help develop the policy. It isn't for scrutiny to develop policy. It's for us to scrutinise policy. And by drawing us in that way, I hope nobody will be drawn in, it would neuter us in terms of being able to scrutinise anything that comes forward. So that's a pretense, another pretense of consultation. This is what we're talking about at the moment. I find it shocking that that is even on his list of suggestions, because we cannot be involved in the detail as members of scrutiny, it seems to me. And in relation to what this meeting should be doing, this meeting's focus shifted when the lead member left. And we can't just sit here and say, oh, all right, then off we go. We have to address it in the meeting. It's a disgraceful way to treat scrutiny. I accept what the legal offer is saying, but I think that it's not right. Sorry about that, and I'm sorry if I started in before Clive.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Biddulph. I think Stephen was trying to clarify what options are before us, rather than that is what he was trying to clarify. So if Councillor Rajawat left, I understand your concern, and that's where the shift is. But the option are what Stephen was trying to clarify before us, that these are the options. So can I, with that, can I ask whoever taking minute that whatever the concern and whatever was said during the OSC this meeting should be minuted accurately for us to consider. So probably this is an opportunity for us to retire now, and we will come off this meeting and for deliberation.
I'm awfully sorry, Chair. Forgive the interruption. I'm just mindful that Clive Palfyman has been trying to raise an issue for almost half an hour, and I'd also just want to put on record for those members of the public listening that obviously there is a role for scrutiny, both to hold to account but also in policy developments. They are two sides of the same coin. So there is an opportunity, should the committee be keen to pursue policy development, for that to happen. But please, Clive Palfyman was keen to speak a little while ago, Chair.
Thank you. My apology. I'd probably just let me. Oh, sorry, Clive. Can I invite Clive to speak, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. With your indulgence, I'll speak briefly. It's an interesting debate to listen to. I think I can probably categorically state that Councillor Rajawat was genuine in his intention to engage with overview and scrutiny as you wish him to do so over the course of time, whilst not wishing to get too heavily into the debate of what scrutiny should or should not be doing this evening. Certainly from my perspective in terms of the scheme itself, there is a lot of analysis that sits behind it. Very happy to make that available in the way in which members would find helpful. A lot of information available. I think the intention of the proposals as they were, some of that has been missed in the debate this evening. Certainly the intention, if it were to be taken forward, would have been a 2022 in the main implementation, with work with affected families over the course of the coming year. That said, the intention of the scheme is currently generous, and the intention is still to keep it generous and protect our most vulnerable families. The scheme as it stands at the moment, although benefits a number of families in a number of positive ways, isn't universally popular. And some of the mismatch in between universal credit, or customers who are on universal credit and those who aren't, are starting to cause us a number of difficulties. So there's some very good intentions that sit behind some of the proposals that were put forward. I'm keen to kick back very strongly on the suggestion that there was predetermination. There absolutely wasn't, and I can give you my categoric assurance that that was never the case. And in amongst that, sort of the intention in terms of who consultation would have occurred with was fairly detailed in its nature. So I just wanted to give a little bit of context to your deliberations, and I hope you find that helpful going forward. But I am very happy to share find useful in terms of shaping that views, whether that to be now or more likely over the course of coming months as we reflect on what you consider this evening and take that into deliberations in terms of some of the sort of reflections we'll need to make over the course of coming months.
Thank you, Clive. Thanks for your help. Appreciate that. Thank you. Can I ask member of OSC to retire from this meeting, come off from this meeting and join the deliberation meeting, and this meeting will continue for resident purpose, and then we will come back after deliberation. Councillor Grewal and Councillor Eason, briefly, please.
Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
Just wanted to propose to suspend standing orders. I'm wondering if one of my colleagues would second it.
Yeah.
Chair, I'll second it.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much. So can I then ask OSC member to retire from this meeting and join another meeting for deliberation, and we'll come back as quick as possible.
Chair.
Councillor Dennison, the chair's gone. Would you like me to pass on a message before I switch over?
Do we leave this meeting completely or leave it running?
I think we should join the OSC deliberation meeting.
Yeah.
I think we do leave this one, and
Yeah.
then we come back into it.
Okay, thanks.
Hi Richard, how are you?
Welcome back, Theo.
Yeah.
You're right.
We're all
Took a long while.
Yeah. Just waiting on the chair to come back, and then he'll read out what we've decided.
I trust they've been feeding you supper.
Yes.
Sorry, we are back in the meeting, and after deliberation, we carefully consider all the evidence and has decided, and our recommendations are as follows, which I'm going to read now for all member and member of the public. So OSC decision 2nd February 2021, the recommendation are: we understand that the decision cannot be implemented because the policy consultation cannot be taken forward. Therefore, OSC cannot take any action on this call-in. OSC will accommodate within the work program pre-decision scrutiny to consider any new scheme. However, as the Overview Scrutiny Committee, we would like to make the following observation for Cabinet as they think about any new council tax scheme. Carefully consider any future proposal on the council tax support scheme and its impact on residents, especially the context of the impact of the COVID pandemic. Make all information on the impact of the existing scheme and the new scheme is made available in a clear manner prior to all relevant parties, and ensure consultation is well planned and adequate, and there is an opportunity for pre-decision scrutiny. And those are the recommendations put forward just now from OSC to take into account. Can I go for the agenda item 4, which is urgent business and close? There is no urgent matter to be considered, and the date of the next meeting will be 3rd of February 2021, which is tomorrow. Can I thank all members and officer, and also thank the ICT officer who were producing the meeting and the Democratic Services officer who supported it or organized it. Thanks everyone, including the public, for being present. And with this, thanks. I declare close the meeting And thank you for all OSC for your input. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Chair, huge thank you to you, and also Councillor Dennison for staying for the entirety of the meeting and answering our questions. That's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
For the whole OSC.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Dennison. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, both of you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.